Item number 3 is consideration of adopting a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Angelo, Texas, in support of the application of the Dissinger Development, LLC, to be made to the Housing Tax Credit Program through the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs for an award and allocation of 215 Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program funds for the construction of 80 affordable housing apartment units for low to moderate income citizens known as Outlook at Valley View, to be located at 2900 Valley View Boulevard. And I will have to admit that the information I've been giving is not completely accurate, and that's the reason I pulled this, so that Robert Salas could explain everything, and you would be able to understand exactly where we are on the situation, because I didn't understand it either. My apologies for those that have called me. I didn't lie to you, I just didn't know what I was talking about. So, Mr. Salas, please give us an explanation.
I'll try, sir. Council members, we have a developer that is interested in applying for the tax credits with the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. They are asking for permit waivers to show city support, and that's how they get points as they compete with a very competitive process. These are 80 units built at high standards. They will compete with other projects here in San Angelo, which includes Odessa and Midland as well. So very competitive. We went to council last meeting and we approved the concept of providing the waiver, the fee waivers, which is about $14,000 that we figured. Right now, the way the process works is once the resolution is signed, they will submit their application, and at that point, TDHCA decides who gets the tax credits, and then the winner, only one winner in the 3 cities will get it, and usually we'll have 5 or 6 competitors. At that point, they'll move forward with the project. And these are, like I said, they're high standard, they're built with high standards, very nice apartments. They're not the old projects like people think they are. They kind of target more of the middle class, moderate income, because of there are a few for low income, but for the most part, they're $700, $800 a month. So.
I have a question.
Yes, and as a way of explanation, then I will. I told everybody that this was not zoned for apartments. It is. It's zoned RM1, and it was my mistake because I thought it was R&E, and I told everybody this is just going for tax credits, but it will come back on the zoning meeting, and that is not true. It is already zoned RM1, which allows this to be built. Ms. Grindstead.
Bob, according to TDHCA or HUD, what is the standard, the income level, the maximum that someone can make in order to live in these apartments?
Well, it varies, as you know, but for example, a family of 3 cannot make more than $44,000, I believe. I think that's, if I remember, I don't have it in front of me, but that strikes me as a number that I remember.
I think that there are a lot of people that have an idea that it's a very different income level than what it actually is.
Yes,
so
it's really those target very low income families,
right.
And they can't afford these
right.
for the most part.
Thank you.
Any further comments from council?
Yes.
Rodney?
A couple questions, Bob. One, there's no way that you can even tell that this apartment complex is low income. It's not going to have a big sign that says low income housing on it.
Oh, no,
correct?
it does not.
It's low mod.
Right, and
Low mod.
we've seen the plans, the rough plans of what it would look like. It's as nice, if not nicer, than the apartment complexes right beside Bentwood at this time. It's 80 units. A couple of the arguments I'm sure we're going to hear coming up is that the property values will go down. Well, I'm a real estate broker. This is my livelihood, and I can attest, and I've read all the studies, and the majority of the studies show that the property values do not go down when you put apartment complexes in there if the zoning is right, if it's in the right zoning in the right area. One of the questions that Dwayne brought up in this situation is, if somebody wants the apartment complex there right now, today, we couldn't stop it. It would go there, and that apartment complex would be there anyways. So the zoning is right. We're not dealing with zoning. All we're dealing with is a matter of a credit for inspections. When I looked at making this decision, and this was a hard decision for me, and I got a lot of phone calls yesterday, the majority were against it, but if you looked at we're talking about giving them credits for about $14,000 worth of pass on the fees. Well, the first year in taxes, the city of San Angelo will get over, I think it was $62,000 in taxes back. I look at this strictly as an investment in our city, and also an investment in helping people that need to be spread throughout the city. Several of the phone calls I got yesterday were, frankly, they were very disheartening. And when I was listening to the prayer that the minister gave before this meeting, one of the things he said, to honor and glorify our God. And the phone calls I got yesterday were downright racist. The people were calling and saying I had two ladies in particular that said, I asked them, where do you want this? And both ladies said, on the north side. And I said, you cannot do that. You cannot force low-income people to all be together. That's not even the American way. We want this to all be for everybody. And I'm an investor, a business person, and I realize that I wouldn't want something that would devalue this. My house lives 200 yards away from industrial property. I built my house there, and it didn't devalue my property at all. And this apartment complex will be way nicer than what I live 200 yards from. So that's where I'm coming from. I understand that a lot of you are going to be talking and giving your opinion on this, and I got a lot of opinions yesterday on this. But one of the things I also want to bring up is when you're talking about this and you're talking about low-income people, first of all, if you say anything racist, you get up here, I'm going to ask that they cut the microphone off, because the messages I got yesterday were very, very bad. And I grew up in low-income housing. So when you're giving me this argument and you're saying those are bad people, those people that called me yesterday called me a bad person. I was raised in low-income housing. So I'm telling you right now where I'm coming from on this. When you call somebody, next time you might want to check and see what their background is. I don't think people coming from low-income housing are bad people. I think they're people that may need a step up, a hand up, and help them. So that's where I'm coming from, and I hope that we can. I have no idea how the rest of the council is going to vote on this, but if this wasn't in my district, it was in another. Just went through this also, where we voted for that to help them. I think putting it anywhere throughout the city in different areas really helps us as a city and helps us all come together. And that's all I have
And
to say.
remember that folks who are going to be tenants are going to be people like nurses that are starting off.
Single mothers. My mother was a single mother, and that's why I lived in low-income housing for almost 5 years when I was growing up. And I lived in low-income housing in Mason, Texas. So everybody knew where I lived. They all knew I was from low-income housing. So I don't think that's a stigma. I think that was something I'm proud of, because I picked myself up, I put myself through school, I have a business, I'm successful now. I'm a city council person. And I think that it's a proud moment for me. And I was so upset yesterday with the phone calls I got. I mean, it really, really broke me down that people would be this racist in today's time and talk to me that way without knowing who I am.
Charlotte?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as I stated last time, I am opposed to waiving the fees, which I voted against waiving the fees. I firmly believe if Tony Jones and Gary Cortez and all Mr. Biggerstaff and all the different builders out there come in and develop a section of land and stuff, and we don't waive their fees. They're independent and private, and we shouldn't be waiving their fees. The city needs the income to support and pay their people. With the tax credit program, what a lot of people have not understood, we don't have authority over who says and doesn't. So that goes to the state, and you definitely need to appear before the state to oppose any type of project in housing in your city, in your area. I need to ask before I go on, what are the other 3 cities or 5 cities are being considered this go around?
Right now, Odessa, Midland, and San Angelo for our region.
Odessa, Midland, and San Angelo in this region.
In this region, yes. Compete regionally.
Yes. And in those cities that you said 5 to 6, I thought there were 10 applicants applying in those 3 cities.
I looked a long time ago, so there may be some more that came
Okay.
up, so I was sorry.
So that, and the reason I bring that up is so that you understand the chances. Only 1 will be granted. So there's a 1 in 3 chance that San Angelo will be granted, and 5 to 10 developers, there's that 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 chance. And that's what I want to emphasize. It is on a point system, and the developer comes in and asks for a resolution or an endorsement from the city. I asked at last meeting when this came forward about the fees that town hall meetings be conducted in the area in a location to hear from the citizens so that they could have their voice, they could see projects or placards of the buildings and whatnot. That hasn't been done in a 2-week time frame. I understand that just yesterday they started, contacting people to arrange for town hall meetings, and this is before, an endorsement from the city. And the reason I'm hesitant to endorse this is because what I feel is a market oversaturation. I do know that in this portion of town, the tax credit properties that were built or were financed, Encino Park, Bent Tree, the Desert Shadows, those are all tax credit properties that were built in the southwest portion of town. With the Encino Park went belly up in the beginning, and of course all the investment money, foreclosure and out of, for an oversaturation at that point in that time frame. It concerns me because since the Encino Park, in the Bent Tree, there have been considerably other rental properties come on board and doors that have opened, and there's one on Valley View now that is about to open out into the area. I don't believe they're on any kind of income program, but I do know that there are 31 different properties in San Angelo, whether it be a Myrtlewood Estates or a Bent Tree or any of those, that currently accept housing assistant programs. And I'm cautious as to what our needs, what we're meeting our needs of our population now and the future. And I think we need to be very careful of our endorsement of overbuilding. I happen to know what overbuilding and these properties can draw in unattended, unwatched habitations, the deterioration and the crowds that it can gather. That is my hesitation on it. And I truly believe in not a handout, but a help up. And that's what you're saying that these folks want to establish, but I really would like for them to have something in the game besides all borrowed and all tax dollar funds in this. So I'm opposed to the endorsement, and I've made that very clear, and because of the overmarket saturation. I've checked with the local apartment association as to what their occupancy is at this time without the new phase of the registry coming online, the ones there behind Suddenlink and the ones on Valley View, which are going to put close to 800 more units on the line, which will bring market rates down and rental down because the competitiveness and the abundance on the market. So I think all of these things need to be taken into consideration. And Mr. Salas, I thank you for the information that you had gathered. I don't know where you got your occupancy standard done. The one at the Apartment Association that is going on is not due to be published until next week.
That was from the market analyst.
A market analysis that was done by the company that's coming in.
And part of the package.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I know how that works when an individual calls to ask for occupancy standards, and there's not an apartment manager out there that'll give you the straight story as to what their vacancies are. It's just the nature of the game, the competition of it. But the actual numbers that come in, I'm most anxious to wait till next week for their official survey to be announced for the overall city, which is lots of units here in town. And I'm hoping to hear from the public and to their opinions on this today.
Don, do you have anything to add to this?
No, sir.
Johnny?
You know, a couple of months ago, I think there was an idea of putting maybe some units here across the river. I welcome something like that. It is revitalization, and I mean, some people can call it something different, and it's part of the growing pains we're going through. But, I'm jealous of whoever's area that is. I would welcome something like that over here that's badly needed, and again, revitalize the neighborhood. My gosh, what's wrong with that? So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Well, I've got 4 of these out in my area, and none of them are as nice as what they're trying to build on Valley View. This is not Section 8 housing. This is a nice apartments. These are good apartments, and there'll be good people in them. One more, Rodney?
Yeah, just to kind of answer what Charlotte was saying, they're not borrowing all the money. They have a huge stake in this investment. So they're putting a lot of their own money into this.
Oh, absolutely.
The majority of the money is their money.
It's a token of.
Yes. And really, all we're doing is helping them, and you did explain this very well, Charlotte, on the point system. This is a point system, and so when they're competing with these other 10 companies that are proposing these projects, what they look at is total points, and this is some points that are added. If they ask us for an endorsement, we're not giving them that, but we said that we might possibly give them this break on the fees, and that helps them with the points. So, out of all the apartment complexes that we have coming into town, there are no low-income housing coming on board, none. None of the new ones are low-income housing. And I can tell you, because I am in this industry, and my wife manages almost 50 rental houses right now, the rental market is tough right now. And the majority of these people that are going to speak, they have no idea between $500 and $1,200 a month. It is a rat race out there, and you are fighting for these houses. And it's amazing what you get for $1,200. It's not that nice. It's not. And so when you're talking about apartment complexes between 600 and 1,000, that's roughly what they were saying, between 600 and 1,000, with 1,000 being a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, so you could have several family members in there. I welcome this. I think that it would be a good thing, and I'm like Johnny. I would vote for this, whether it was in Johnny's district or Don's district. I think this is a good thing for the city, for them to put up their money and try to get this thing. And they've already invested a ton. They've already, they've probably put 6 months or more into this project.
And the only reason I'm opposed to it, because I don't want to give them $14,000 worth of credit. I think they can pay the permit fees like everybody else. But I am going to open it up for public comment. I will give you 3 minutes to speak. Say the same thing. I mean, if one says it, don't everybody else stand up and say the same thing. But give us a variety of reasons not to. But I will open it up for public comment. Come to the microphone, state your name, and I will give you 3 minutes. Come on up, Terry.
My name is Terry Campbell, and I live about a half a block from where this building is supposed to be done. Okay, now my main concern is not what everybody's been talking about. It's the utility infrastructure to support it. Because right now, the standard water pressure for a standard pipe is about 80 psi. Right now, I'm running 40 psi. Okay, now, if you put 80 units in, it's going to cost the city a lot more money to put another main in to get enough water pressure to support an 80-unit housing. It's going to cost the city more money, I'm saying, than just just letting them build it. That's all I had to say. It's just that I got some problems with the infrastructure.
Good point, Terry. Thank you.
Okay.
Next. If you would, just kind of queue up to the front, and everyone will get their say-so. Yes, sir.
I'm Mark White, live at 40 South Ridge. We're a member of the South Ridge Homeowners Association. I appreciate the Homeowners Association coming to support this effort that we bring to encourage the City Council not to waive the fees for this project. We would seriously encourage you not to waive the fees. Thank you very much for allowing us. Would the members of the Homeowner Association please stand up? Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. And I didn't mean to give you wrong information a while ago. I apologize.
My name is Karen Rustman. I live at 2754 Oak Hills Trail. We've been here approximately 10 years. We moved here because of the location of the city. We love it. But as the gentleman previously indicated, my concern, it will be on the back side of my property, is traffic. Who's going to maintain the property? Is that going to be the responsibility of the city once this property is built? Who's going to maintain it? I'm not concerned about the building structure. That's all I've heard in this meeting so far, is it's going to be a beautiful building. It's going to be something like we've not seen before. Well, that's well and good. I'm not concerned about how it's going to integrate into the other surrounding homes. I'm concerned about traffic. I'm concerned about security. I'm concerned about proximity to the school on the backside of Southwest. And I'm concerned about the nursing home right up the street. Those individuals need to be heard as much as I do. And I do not feel that our councilman, Mr. Fleming, has done that. We were not aware of any of this. No one has done anything to advise us and inform us that this was a possibility, that this company had came in and was wanting fees waived. If they want this property so much, let them pay it. We do not give things for free. Thank you.
Good point, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Jeannie Mitchell, and I reside in Bentwood, so I have close proximity. But my concern is the fees being waived. My husband's a builder, and I can promise you, nobody cuts him any slack when he goes and applies for permits, any type of fee, we pay it. So I think what's fair for one is fair for the next. Also, when it comes to the permitting process, right now, if you apply for a permit in the city of San Angelo, even to do a small remodel job, the waiting time's about 10 weeks, maybe longer. We're just getting a permit today for something we applied for in November. If we're going to have all these big projects, then maybe the city needs to allocate a little more time or a little more resources instead of waiving fees to hire another person in the permit department. So I say don't waive the fees.
Thank you, ma'am. And we did have a meeting yesterday about the permit department and the time it's taking. We're very aware of the problem, and we are working on it. That's it. We're working on it. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hill, and I live within sight of the new project. And I want to thank you for this chance to speak, Mr. Mayor and the council persons. We thank you very much for listening to us. I have lived through a situation like this before, and I saw a really good solution. I moved here not too long ago from Bernie, and in that particular area, we lived in 1-acre homes, and the city council allowed starter homes to be built next door. So you had people that lived on an acre and people that were going to, be very, very dense next door. And so what they did as a solution was they required the stakeholders and the developer to talk. Rather than doing it in this format, they said if we're going to waive the fee, then we're going to make it contingent upon the developer meeting with the stakeholders and listening to their concerns. And then we were able to bring those concerns back to the city council, and we were actually able to get the developer to make some really important concessions. They were planning on doing some things that very cheaply that hadn't been brought out, and you don't have a lot of time to look at this solution. You don't really know what the developer is going to do, or maybe you do, but we certainly don't. And that's why I do not feel the way that the people that called you feel. I am not a racist, and I care very much about affordable housing. And even though it's going to be in my backyard and that's scary, what I really want is a voice to talk to the developer. We haven't seen the pictures. We don't know what they're going to do. All we know is that it's subsidized housing, and there's probably going to be a lot more traffic and a lot of people living in our neighborhood. That it's just going to change the complexion is what it feels like. So all I'm asking you to consider is that please don't waive the fee, because that does give the developer a big hand up in being able to do something that they haven't even talked to the stakeholders about. But if you decide to waive the fee, we ask that you please make it contingent upon a stakeholder town hall meeting so that all the hundreds of people that live next door and pay taxes and are mostly good citizens get a chance to talk to the developer, and maybe ask the developer to make some potential concessions that they might be willing to make if they sit down with us. Not in this meeting or in a meeting that seems kind of hostile, but if we're sitting in a school cafeteria and we get a chance to talk to them and they share with us, maybe they might be willing to address some of our concerns. And I know I'm almost out of time, but in my previous situation, we brought forth to the City Planning Commission that we thought there was going to be a serious drainage issue. The developer stood up in front, and the city staffer stood up in front of the Planning Commission and said, no, we've already looked at it, there's not going to be a drainage issue. When we had our stakeholder meeting, we begged the city engineer to come to the meeting, and we walked out onto the hill where they were going to build this huge development, And we pointed to it. You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to see that they hadn't addressed a serious drainage issue. And so because of that meeting, we got 2 important concessions, including a different route for the drainage, and many homes were saved. So that's all I'm asking, is that you make it contingent, if you vote for this, on a stakeholder meeting with the neighbors, and the developer gets to sit down with all the people that are going to live right next door to it and talk to them about it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Bob? Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to echo everything that she just said. I stood back there thinking, okay, I should just turn around and go sit back down. I agree with everything she said. I would like to apologize on behalf of...
State your name,
I'm sorry, my
please.
name is Becky Bray.
I'm sorry.
I would like to apologize on behalf of any neighbor in my neighborhood that called and said anything racist. Our neighborhood, I would like to think, is not full of racist people. I don't care if they're polka dot, purple, striped. It doesn't matter to me what color people live in the neighborhood. I have the same concerns as everyone else addressed, and I do not think that the fee should be waived as well.
Thank you, Ms. Bray. Yes, ma'am. And I apologize to you because I gave you bad information.
That's why we're here. My name's Lillian Russell. I live real close to where this is going to be. And I would like to, and I have been on their website, and I have looked at their nice buildings. And they all say senior living, it's not mentioned about low income, but all of a sudden it's low income. So why would you want to put a low income right in the middle of a high-end residential area? Does this does not make it sense to me. Does it to you?
Yes.
There's plenty of vacant properties in San Angelo.
On the north side, did you
Anyway,
call me yesterday?
I did call. You did not return my call. What makes this property
You didn't leave
so...
a message for me.
Yes, I did. I did leave you a message. You did not return my call. Mr. Mayor, thank you for answering. What makes this property...
Even though I gave you wrong information?
Well, we got it. What makes this property so attractive to the LDG development? Is it because the utilities are already placed, paid by someone else?
They're investors. They choose the site. We don't.
Well, I do have concerns. The fees shouldn't. My husband's a builder also. We pay those fees. So there's no reason for them to be. They're going to get the income. And another thing is the turnover in these apartments is great. They don't stay. We are people here that stay and pay our taxes and keep our houses updated. I have nothing against. I came from low income also. I bettered myself. I made those moves. And everybody can do that if they choose to. I do object to the fees being waived. I object to this proposal of a building being built here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. State your name, you've got 3.
I'm Colonel Dr. Walter Russman, and I guess I have 3 concerns with this. The first is just the way it was done. It seemed like everybody here found this out in the last 48 hours. It just seemed like there was no knowledge of it until all of a sudden local citizens found that this was going on, and I think that that's done wrong. I agree with the one woman who said the company should come forth and discuss with the local people. So that really bothered me. As far as Ms. Farmer's comments, I completely agree with that. My concern is, I guess, the security of the area. Study after study will show you that subsidized low-income housing does have a higher crime rate. It does. You can't dispute that. Also, with the saturation in the area of housing, I'm concerned that you're going to have unoccupied areas. And again, that's going to bring that element. We have elderly homes, we have people who have set up retirements. They are the people that are typically targeted for crime. So that bothers me. And then the last thing simply is I kind of resent the implication that everybody who is against this is a racist. Mr. Fleming, I grew up poor. My father was a garbage man, my mom a waitress. I went to medical school. My wife and I put ourselves through that to get to this point in life. We didn't live in the nicer part of town until now. I worked to that. That's the American dream, and I don't think we should be sitting there putting this stuff forth where people are just giving this forth right now, and the implication that we're all racist just really bothered me because we worked to this. But the implication was there that everybody was calling me was a racist. There were, so
saw me that were racist.
Several, that wasn't
Several.
taken, of course.
Yes, and I probably got 20-something, out of respect, I probably got 20-something phone calls last night, and the 2 out of the 20, so it is very low.
Yeah, that was not the way you made it sound.
No, but 2 out of 20, and the way that they presented it, it was bad. And I'm not saying that neighborhood, I've lived in that neighborhood, I've owned houses in that neighborhood, I sell houses in that neighborhood. I don't have anything.
Right, let's keep this civil now. We're gonna keep it civil. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, council. My name is Sandy Lee, and I live in Single Member District 1. And your representation has been very poor. None of us knew. It's just slide under the radar and decide that you were unilaterally going to do this. That was a very sanctimonious decision to make.
And I did that by myself.
And
There's a body here, and this was
I
brought.
believe
no,
I was
let me finish.
speaking.
Let me finish.
I believe I have my 3 minutes,
Rodney,
Mr. Mayor.
let's, one at a time.
Do I
And
not
you
have
were
my 3
speaking,
minutes? Thank
you
you.
have the floor.
Thank you. Charlotte, to you, thank you for trying to get us a town meeting, even though you're not our representative. It's nice to see part of the council all works together, and then part of us are on our own little agenda, whatever that might be.
Now, you be civil as well.
I will.
You are walking on the line.
I'm being very civil.
Okay.
This was not ever brought up in a public manner. It was,
We didn't know about it until last meeting. If in all fairness, we didn't know about it until last meeting.
how could you not know about it?
Didn't know about it.
And they brought it up in the last meeting.
It was
And
in
we
the
all
last
voted
meeting
on
is
it in
when
the
we-
last meeting.
is
I
when
didn't
we
just
voted.
vote on it.
But go ahead, I
If we have a
interrupted you.
hearing where we hear and not engage, then we can
Yeah.
engage afterwards, otherwise we'll not.
You do have the floor.
Thank you. You did this, none of the constituents, you did not, you are a voice for the constituents, and you are not the voice for the constituents in this case. Nobody knew until the mayor said again last night. No one knew until last night. The $14,500 should not be waived at all for any reason. Let's all be on the same playing field. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My name's James Macon, I live in South Ridge. I just got one question that's sort of bothering me. I believe that's city-owned property. And,
No, it's not.
Is it, Robert?
No.
It is
at all.
not.
Brandon Moore's.
the city traded that property for Lamar's location. Now, it may have changed hands since then, but I believe that is city-owned property,
As far as we know, it is private owned.
okay? It wasn't for sale. So somebody obviously made a private deal or whatever, but I just wanted to, I wanted it on the record as to who owned the property, and not that we need to look up and see who sold it. I mean, it's-
Who owns?
Who owns it, and I believe at one time the city did own that property, because it was traded for the property where Lamar is now, because it was in the floodplain. So, if we could just clarify that question, it'll be something maybe for further discussion, but.
We can find that out pretty quick.
Well, I'm
What the
certain,
property
I'm
was.
certain, and we could as well, but just for public consumption.
Good point. Thanks,
Thanks,
sir. Any more public comment before I open it up to the council again? Because there are more comments up here. Come ahead, ma'am.
Is the proponent here?
Is the proponent here?
He's not.
He is not. Okay.
Last week, he thought it was.
State your name and keep it civil, and you've got three.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm Kyra Nesledge, and I live at 2742 Oak Hills Trail. So this plan is going to be right behind my house. So last night, at 8 o'clock, I get a knock on the door, and a pool man that was working on our pool comes and brings me and says, "Do y'all know about this?" I said, "No." So I made copies, went out. The people that opened the doors, 20 houses I went to, well, more than 20, probably 40, but people thought I was selling Girl Scout cookies, so they didn't open that. 20, no one knew about it. No one knew about it. I went to the city today, And this is who owns it. It's Scott Allison and Lacey. Oh, excuse me. They own it, the property.
Well, that answers one question.
There we go. So I thought I'd make it.
Wrong location.
Is that the wrong location?
Scott doesn't own it.
They are the agents.
No, Brandon Moore is the agent who to sell the property.
Oh, I was told.
It says registered agent Lance Lacey.
On the second
Brandon Moore's
page.
the one to sell.
Is that?
Steve Eustace company has it listed.
Okay.
And Scott Allison's name's on here.
Well, there's concerns that we have that you are directly involved with it in some form or fashion. And so I feel like maybe, you know, because you're pushing it, none of us want it.
Right.
And you're our representative. So.
But I represent the whole district, 17,000 people. And then we work together as a body for the city of San Angelo. My whole deal, the only reason why I'm looking at this and the way and my thought processes on this is that we need low-income housing throughout the city, not just on the north side, and not just on the east side.
I agree, but
That's the number one thing.
I agree. I mean.
An apartment complex can be there no matter what.
You're right, you're right.
It can.
But how it was done, you know.
But I didn't set that up. It was brought before us the last council meeting as a body.
Ronnie,
We voted on
no,
it.
I'll address that just a little bit as well.
Okay, and also, when there is a town meeting suggested, because of the concerns.
And I love that. I want us to do that.
You
Stakeholder,
do?
it's
Well,
called a
I
stakeholders
had
meeting.
heard you did not.
But by someone that's never talked to me. Stakeholder meetings are always
Let her
positive.
speak, please, let her speak.
So, I mean, I'm sorry that fingers are being pointed to you, but you are our representative, so, you know, we want, you are our voice.
Right.
And so, you know, that's, again, I don't think we're not racist. We're your neighbor. We're not racist. We're, you know, many of us know you, we're friends. That's not what's going on here, okay? And the traffic is going to be horrible. It's
Another
going to
check
be-
with traffic.
Oh, my kiddos, you know, I mean, you know, they're going fast and it's a lot of traffic on that street now. I've lived there 13 years. And so anyway, a town meeting I would really like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more comment? Any more public comment on this before I open it up? Mr. Valenzuela, I've got Charlotte waiting to speak. Daniel?
First of all, as far as procedurally, this really doesn't fall on Rodney. Really, from the staffing perspective, procedurally moving forward, it's apparent that anytime there's any type of application for a housing tax credit, that we should follow a procedure that we have a town hall meeting in those areas. And really, again, I want to make sure that I stress that please don't point fingers in any other direction. If you point a finger, point it at me as far as representing the staff. This is something that will be rectified moving forward, making sure that we do have those town hall meetings. Again, from a procedural perspective in the future, whenever we have an issue like this that comes up, we need to make sure that we do hear from all the stakeholders, and for that, my apology.
Charlotte?
Yes, and I totally agree. Before we endorse any resolutions, pass any resolutions, there's definitely, as I requested 2 weeks ago, some town hall meetings on this to keep us better informed from the public. I do want to clarify one thing. Anytime that a TDCH property application tax credit has been applied for, letters are sent to council members. There definitely should be sent to the council members of that district. I received one because that used to be my district. I received one in January with reference to this property. So I can't speak for Mr. Fleming or the rest of the council. I know that my letter came through the city of San Angelo, addressed to me, as you know, several of them do, from the developer, that it is their intent. And so to answer that, I knew in January, this is February, it's the first part of January. So that addresses that. But I want to make something very, very clear. I have always been a proponent and an advocate for safe, decent, and affordable housing. I believe in it. I believe in it with all of my heart. And the programs were invented in the housing industry years ago to assist and to bring up out of ghettos for people who needed to get ahead. I believe in that. But I also know and understand real estate and market saturation. And out-of-town developers do not have the care and concern for our community as our local people do. And that is my concern in this instant, is that we're not careful to overbuild, and that's the reason I requested 2 weeks ago for town hall meetings, and to get an accurate account of all the properties, apartment complexes, and people in the HAP program, and that is through the PHA, which is a housing assistance program, that participate in the city of San Angelo. That's all of the nursing or assisted living facilities that participate in low income. And at my last count, there were 31 properties, and the majority of those being on the south or just centered, just past the loop. So I need to see those numbers before I am ready to look at any kind of resolution. That's the only number that is left out from the work that you have done, Mr. Salas, so I appreciate that.
Well, I guess it's time to vote on this. Somebody move.
What is the time frame that they need on this? Because I'm all in favor of having a stakeholders meeting. Stakeholders meetings are awesome because everybody kind of figures out what needs to be done to make it the right way.
I believe the pre-application is due the end of February. Now, if they don't apply, if they don't do the pre-application, they do have some time after the fact. They, I believe, lose a point if they don't do the pre-application. But there's time if you want to go forward with the.
Well, I would like just for the residents in the area's purpose to have a meeting. And I'm totally fine with that with the developer and all the stakeholders that live in the area, and for him to line out what is going to be built over there and how it's going to be built, and the things just like the lady described from Bernie. I think she was in Bernie. About what is going to be done over there. That's possible.
I moved to postpone until after a town hall meeting with stakeholders.
Yeah. I'm
Somebody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. I think that's an excellent way to look at this.
Mayor, can I add something real quick?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Salas, I think, I find it disheartening that even some of these residents heard about this idea just last night. So that tells me that there's a crack there somewhere as far as communication goes. We knew about it 2 weeks ago. I certainly didn't get any phone calls. It's not my district. I wish I would have gotten some phone calls, with concerns. But I think we need to really, when something like this comes up, I don't know if you advertise it. I don't know.
I do not. I contact the council member in the area and see if they're interested in bringing it forward. That's how I do it. I can change that. That's easily changed. And then we can have from now, we have others coming in. We have 2 others that are thinking of coming to San Angelo. But they're not doing the pre-application, they're going to be going later on, so we'll have more time.
Elizabeth?
I don't want to leave the community with any false sense of notification, though. Most of you know, each of us represent anywhere from 15 to 16,000 people. And so the idea of being able to make a call to your personal residence is impossible unless someone can figure out a way to do it. I have public meetings monthly. I Facebook, and it's still so easy to miss people. So I implore you to watch council agendas and see what it is that affects your neighborhood. Because for me, I already have a phone that's filled. I can't answer any more phone calls. I can't keep up with the emails because my district was very concerned about a frac sand facility. And so when that thing blows up, as we say, you never even get to the next item. It's our technology is great, but it also allows so much communication that it's very hard to decide how to prioritize that. I don't know what the most important call is anymore. It's hard to answer the most important email. So I would just say to you, I appreciate your concern for your neighborhood, but it is incumbent upon you as individuals and property owners to watch council agendas. We discussed this 2 weeks ago, as everyone up here has admitted, but there wasn't anyone here to speak. Maybe, I don't know, just several people. So we were left that day with a very different impression about, community desires. I do, while I have the floor, I want to say that my personal and my professional ethic, however, is to strive to expand housing opportunities for all members of our community, regardless of your economic income. My district is very economically diverse, and I think it's also what makes it very interesting. I do, however, think there's great merit in having town meetings, which I do. I think it's also important that going forward that we have perhaps a criteria locally that requires a town meeting before the council look at supporting such a development. And hopefully we'll be able to get that done right now, but that's a great idea. Some people don't want to come out to a meeting at 6 o'clock. They want to go home to their families, but at least we give you the opportunity and we kind of allay those fears before you get into the kind of the 11th hour. So I'd like to see that institutionalized going forward, not just for this one case. Because as long as TDHCA has housing tax credits to award, we'll continue having this kind of surprise issue. Thank you.
Rodney and then Boston.
One thing I didn't say before to the lady that came up and accused me basically of wrongdoing, I guess, was Scott Allison, or I don't even know who owns the property now. I do know who the selling agent is, and that's Brandon Moore, and I only know that because he called me and asked me questions about this, and I met with him. But I have no idea who the owner of this property is. I would never do anything like that, ever. You don't know me very well if you're even thinking of that. When it comes back to allowing this or not allowing this, I do try to represent my district as best I can, but sometimes it's the people, only a few people will come out. Liz said it perfectly. A few people will come out, but they're not representative of the whole 17, it's almost 17,000 in my district that are speaking. And so I try to weigh that as best I can. And when we do get those phone calls, and you said about being notified, we had that meeting. We had it 2 weeks ago here, and the only people that really, I think the developer was the only person that spoke. I don't even think there was a single person that spoke against it, not one. And so the developer spoke. But that is up to you as a resident to know what's happening with your city council. It's posted to, how many days is it posted?
72 hours.
72 hours.
I called you, and you never even returned my call.
It's, we're getting out of line here. We can't handle this. We're gonna keep it civil.
Well, as far as returning all phone calls.
Rodney, you're gonna keep it civil too.
I am. As far as returning all phone calls, if you understand how this works, 17,000 people, last night I probably received 40 calls. I answered yesterday about 20 calls, 22 or so calls. I received 40 or more calls. I don't answer all my phone calls because I can't. I have to make a living. I have my family. I eat. I sleep. I try to do all those things. So if
I
anybody
do
thinks
laundry. Do you have to do laundry? I do laundry.
and so we can't.
I don't do laundry. Points made, Rodney. Points made. Daniel?
Mayor, we'll make sure that we do schedule a town hall meeting. Also, we'll make sure that we have staff available to address the issues that you raised a while ago, to make sure we address traffic, infrastructure, health and safety issues as well, and we'll get all that on the table. Make sure we get that discussed thoroughly as well. Again, our apologies for that.
We do have a motion on the floor that we postpone this thing until we have a town meeting so that we can have everyone, and we'll give everyone an opportunity to speak and speak to the developer. And I think it's a wonderful idea. Do we have a second on that? I'm calling for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I didn't think so. Put a 6 over that.
Can we take a break?
Let's do, please. It is 10:15. We're going to take about 15 minutes.